to the football, as our James Sharman would say. So you guys were watching that Concacaf Champions Cup. I was watching it at home myself, rooting for Cavalry, rooting for CPL to kind of put their stamp on the world game, and they came close. So they were eliminated following a 2-0 second leg loss to Pumas in Mexico City. Difficult conditions to play in, but they had a historic victory in the first leg. Pumas will advance, but they played the entire second half down to 10 men after Jay Herdman was shown a straight red card in the 4th minute of first half stoppage time.
Rough year for the Herdmans.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
Tough year for the
Let's be honest. I yelled it out to Craig. Craig stood up, and I was like, "The Herdmans are hurting us again."
Yeah, but they fought valiantly. I think they made everybody proud, and they were always going to be in tough, Jimmy. But when Marco Carducci made that brilliant save on the penalty that was awarded after that god-awful challenge by Jay Herdman that was reviewed, and then he was sent off, they were awarded the penalty, Pumas was. Did you think that the footballing gods had something in store for the CPL side? Did you think it was possible, even in that moment when they were going to be down to 10 men?
I did. And it was funny because when the penalty was awarded, I just had a weird feeling that he was going to save it. Mm. And I was kind of thinking to myself, looking at Jenkins, I'm like, he's going to get this. And it was a perfect height as well for him to save. It wasn't a great penalty, was it? But he guessed right, read the body language, and dove to his left and saved it. And then you could see right away that, you know, when you have a keeper that makes a save like that, an important save, it just gives a lift and more energy to everybody on the park. Mm-hmm. And the players did have a little spring in their step where they thought, "Oh my God, that, you know, maybe the gods are with us now." Mm-hmm. But even with Herdman, I mean, look, when you looked at Charlie Trafford's tackle, I thought, I was like, here we go, typical CONCACAF. And thank God for VAR, by the way, because when he actually went back and looked at it, and I still don't understand how he ended up getting booked for it.
I don't either, but note it, Footy Primers, February 14th, 2025, Jimmy Brennan was quoted as saying, "Thank God for VAR." No, but it worked exactly as it should have done. But at that point, I wanted to ask you guys this. Because he's booked, it goes to VAR for an error, for a sending off. At that point is the only outcome possible for it to be downgraded to a yellow because he's already been awarded the red.
No, I mean, if it's not,
you can just rescind it entirely and not give anything.
Yeah, the whole thing. I mean,
I agree with you.
The yellow's got to be warranted, and that it wasn't warranted. Mm-hmm. Which is, I don't understand. You can't just give somebody a yellow because, I made a mistake with a red, but I'm going to give you a yellow. Right. And it should have been rescinded, everything. Nobody got a card within that situation. But I think when you looked at Herdman's tackle, you know, at first you thought, well, maybe he got the ball. But then when you did see the replay, it was very reckless. Very reckless. And I mean, that's the last thing you want to do in the box. And he should know better as well. And, you know, throughout that second half, I was just thinking, I wish this was 11v11 right now, because I think it could have turned into a hell of a game.
Absolutely.
It was a hell of a game anyways.
Of course it was.
But,
it was, but
yeah, I know what you're saying.
Would have liked to see them on 11v11. And
I wanted to bring up, there were a couple comments about that, and there was one really kind of douchebaggery one. So let me pull that up. From one of our friends named Amy Walsh. A bit of a douche. Never a red, never a booking. Come on, CPL Cavalry. To Jimmy's point, sorry, Dubs. I'm just kidding. You know I love you.
Okay,
we get along,
you
right?
Just called me a douchebag. It's hard to kind of come back from that one.
On Valentine's Day.
I know.
Of all
the days of all the bags, you call me the douchebag.
But Krieger, what I want you to talk about it, because Jimmy was talking about it, but you were going off on it too.
Yeah, well, we all were. We were like, even when we saw it live, we're like, hold on a minute, like that's not right. But I'm glad glad VAR sorted it out. But I still wasn't 100% confident they were going to change it. They thought it was like blatantly obvious, but they did. At least they downgraded it to yellow and kept it at 11v11 for that challenge.
I think they kind of had to when they showed. Remember when they showed the shot of the two VAR referees and they had their backs looking at them? I'm like,
oh,
yeah, it's like, oh no, now they put them on the spot. They have to actually change this.
I mean, that's always the way. You know who they are. Names are
Yeah,
names.
exactly.
You see
Doxing
the images.
them.
You see the pictures. But no, that's exactly what it should have been. But I think once that was rescinded to a yellow, I completely agree with Jimmy. Like, I don't think that should have been a booking. It shouldn't have been a yellow card. But I think maybe they think at that point, because the Reds rescinded, you have to give something. But there were also other calls that went against them. So they were not only up against the conditions, they were up against the poor air quality we were talking about in Mexico City, and the fact that they're playing a side that's fully immersed in their season, a giant of Mexican football, and you're a team that's just trying to get up to fitness to where you can compete, and they did. So I wanted to ask you, Forrest, in making history as a first CPL club to win a match in this competition, they've set the standard league-wide. But is it also a shot fired across the bow of world football that a league that's just 7 years young can compete?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they certainly did the league incredibly proud, and so did Forge. I mean, they're up against really big sides in Mexico, and Mexico has dominated the Concacaf championship for forever. And to take them as close as they did, Cavalry was really, really proud of the group. I mean, Wonger, we were there, we were watching the game, and when they conceded, we thought, well, that's it. But a couple substitutions, and they really did have some chances, really good chances late in the game to maybe take it to extra time, tie it up. So, yeah, I was really impressed with them, because they look like, it was like Rocky Balboa just getting pummeled, and they just seem to manage to do the rope-a-dope and come back and create some chances. So it'll hurt the side, because they were that close, I think. But overall, they should be incredibly proud.
When you were watching it, Jimmy, and on the call, and you saw at Tommy Wheeldon Jr., I think even when they conceded, and you have to think like down to 10 men, and that Martinez, that fabulous header where he finds the little gap in between the two center backs. You think if they were not a man down, are they able to defend a little bit more resolutely? But overall, I think you were really impressed with the way that they were able to keep Pumas at bay, because you knew that they were going to be on the front foot, the Mexican side, because they just needed that one goal. And even at the end, like Forrest just referenced, that Musi run, that great save by the Pumas goalkeeper at the near post, but they were pressing all the way to the end, and that great attitude where they never gave up.
Yeah, and I think that just sums up Cavalry, what they're like. They won't give up. And like Forrest was saying, as many times they kept on getting punched in the face and getting knocked down, they kept on getting back up again. And I genuinely thought they had a fantastic performance. I thought Cobbs and Montgomery were very good. Especially in the first half, dealing with all the crosses that were coming in. That was one big thing that I said, was they've got to stop the crosses. Ergas and Benevendo on the right, they had fantastic delivery. And that's what they were looking to do. They wanted to stretch Cavalry and then get balls whipped into the box. So in the second half, when Martinez came on, a big 6'3" striker, I thought, here we go now. Now this is going to be a little bit of competition for Cobbs and Montgomery now, because now they've got a big body in there. And they didn't have that in the first half. And again, the crosses kept on coming in, and eventually one landed on Martinez's head, and he wasn't going to miss because he was just so accurate with his header. And then that's when they started having a little bit of problems was with the big man up top. But, with Volling and what's his name on the left side, they had to get out a lot quicker than what they were at times to get the ball, to stop the crosses, Camden. So, I think that was where the bit of the issue was. And I get it. And I understand what Cavalry was doing. They wanted to clog up the middle and keep it nice and tight. They didn't want to get penetrated. And that's why there was a little bit spaces out wide where the balls kept on coming into the box. And eventually, they did get punished from it.
Do you think that was a big factor with the fact that they had so much success overloading that left-hand side? And was it Fraser Aird who was injured? And then you had a player there for Cavalry who wasn't typically playing in that kind of right flank position. So Pumas took full advantage of that?
No, because Fraser Aird came on in the second half.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah, he came off the bench.
Okay.
It was Volling that was playing the right back position. Musi was coming back at times, but it's difficult because you don't want Musi coming back as much, because you need him going forward, and that's a strength, and especially playing in Mexico where there's bad air quality and tougher conditions. You still want to have that little bit of energy for that, that front four to get forward. But I thought they defended very, very well at times. And again, for Cobbs and Montgomery, I thought they were excellent at times. Just Montgomery lost Martinez on that header. And then the second one as well, when, they gave the ball away and finds the feet of Martinez, he ends up turning, has a little stutter step, and Cobbs has just got to step up and not let him have that shot. And he dropped a little bit, but overall, I thought it was a good performance. And I think a lot of people don't realize, and you guys know firsthand, how difficult it is playing in those countries, and especially being a man down.
Oh, I don't know that.
You're just defending. You're just defending. And it takes an awful lot of energy. It's not just physical, it's also mental, knowing that you're not going to have as much possession. You've got to stay together as a unit, stay compact, and just wait for that one opportunity that you might get where they make a mistake and you can try to catch them on a counter. And a couple of times Cavalry broke forward, but they just didn't capitalize on those opportunities, those limited opportunities that they ended up getting.
I think that's what was impressive, that they were in a position where they weren't creating an awful lot to have another gear when I didn't think they had it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was pretty impressive. But it is difficult to play in, and not only the conditions, but every single challenge, even the Trafford challenge, they roll around. They're always asking the referee these questions about, aggressive challenges, and it's difficult to play against. It's frustrating as hell, but it's what we're used to from teams like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, a real heroic effort, I thought, for the club, despite bowing out of the competition. And now they set their sights on April 5th, where they'll open their season against Ford, which is a rematch of that CPL final that we watched in Calgary. So what is the focus like now, like in that club, Jimmy? I don't think you were ever involved in the Concacaf Champions League back in the day, or the Concacaf Champions Cup, but how do you shift your focus and take what you've learned from this type of competition, measuring yourself against the best, and now how do you translate that to a good start to your CPL season?
Yeah. Well, actually, I played in the Champions Cup with Toronto FC, and then we got a taste of it, and I remember going into the season after thinking we need to get back there again, because it's a great experience. That's what you want to play. You want to play in these big matches, play international competition at club level. So for these players, it's a wonderful, wonderful experience, getting to have a taste of what the Champions Cup football is all about. And there's no doubt in my mind, they've got the squad to get themselves back into that competition. And every year that you're playing, you're just gaining more experience, and you want more. You get a taste of it. It's kind of like when you make your debut as a young player getting into professional football, and a manager maybe gives you 20 minutes and you think that is the best 20 minutes of my life. I want more of that. And you work even harder because you want to eventually earn your spot and cement the position. So there's no doubt in my mind, this Cavalry side, I like the way that they play. You can see how close knit they are, how hard they work for one another. And for me, I think they're going to be one of the top favorites, if not the favorite, to win the league again and get back into that competition.
It's like getting to first base and wanting to get to second.
Yeah.
Are you talking about you yesterday at the Dog and Bear Forest?
Yeah, you get a taste for it.
Yeah. The taste of that ice cream.
Oh my gosh.
Crumbled up cookies.
Yeah.
And I was called the douchebag.
Yeah.
I wanted to make the comment too. Last night there was the Nations League, or whatever that hockey thing is going on.
Four Nations.
Whatever. I know so little about it.
You're so soccer centric. You're like,
I want you to know this is a big deal. This is the first time that I have gone outside. Craig and I. It's the first time Craig and I went to watch a CPL team outside at a bar. Like, it is literally, we asked them to turn on the television. That's how much this means to, I think, this league, that it's getting to a point where it can compete on even at a CONCACAF stage. That's pretty impressive. And it was, that we had to say, hey, can you turn this TV off and turn this one on? That's great marketing. And the Four Nations thing, I don't understand. Our buddy Dave Amber's on it, and we were texting back and forth. But I was watching soccer, and I think that's an amazing growth and development in Canada. That's all.
I think that's
a really very proud of CPL.
Yeah, it's a
and
really
Cavalry.
Because lots of pride for how they're competing in the region, in CONCACAF, dealing with the conditions, whether it's poor refereeing decisions or, high altitude. And beginning of your season, you're in preseason, and you're competing against a team that's firmly ensconced in their own season. But then also, as you're saying, with the eyeballs, because that type of competition was happening in my household. I was downstairs watching Cavalry play Pumas, and then JP was actually at the game at the Bell Center watching Finland play the US, and Jack and Evie and Campbell were upstairs watching the hockey game. So we were a household divided, but I was in the basement, I guess where I belonged as the douchebag, watching CCC. But I think you're absolutely right. It's not only staking your claim that way, and like, yeah, we can compete as a young league, as a CPL, but that we can compete for the eyeballs, that we can be a draw as a soccer league, as a soccer nation. Vancouver Whitecaps are going to be in the CCCs next week. So, whether it's MLS or CPL, that you can kind of drag people away from household, which is from hockey, which is the established, or that's the establishment in our country, right?
Yeah. I think you got to give a hell of a lot of credit to Cavalry as well. I mean, they didn't even have a home game. They had to play in Victoria.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
Right. And still managed to get a result going into Mexico. So it's absolutely brilliant what they went through.
And shout out to their supporters group. Is it the Foot Soldiers who were there in Mexico City supporting them? Yeah. Right. So whether they were making the trip out to Victoria, or they're making the trip down to Mexico City, they've got an allegiance of fans and the supporter group that is committed to the cause and committed to Canadian football and to their own club, which is wonderful to see.
Well, we got to meet some of them when we were out in Calgary, and they bring it. Like, they really bring it. So good on them. Just wanted to put a stamp on that one.
Yeah.
But great. It's part of rounding out sort of the culture of the sport, and what causes the shift in the eyeballs and the attention in causing it to be, and James Sharman, if he's listening to this after the fact, is going to adore this, in the zeitgeist of Canadian sport. I don't know what that noise was. Right? It's part of it. It's all of the pieces. I think so.
Look at him. He's looking all coy right? Over there.
It's the supporters group. It's the support on the ground. It's traveling support. It's the attention in between the big matches, in the preseason and the different competitions, that you have that following and that groundswell of support, no matter where you are. And I think that's really important shift as we get into 2026. And we keep asking that question, is this going to be enough to move the needle in this country to make us a footballing nation?